My name is Emily, and I'm 44 years old. I work as a TV broadcaster while my husband, Tom, also 44, runs a photography studio. We began dating in high school and tied the knot at 26. Being each other's first love felt natural, as if fate had guided us together without ever considering anyone else. When I was 25, I tragically lost my parents in an accident. It's hard to imagine how I would have coped without Tom, who became like family to me. After we got married, Tom moved into the house my parents had left me. Having him there made me feel protected, as if I still had both my parents by my side. 2 years into our marriage, we were blessed with a son, and our happiness only grew. Tom proved to be an incredibly supportive partner, sharing household chores and childcare responsibilities equally. He was the epitome of an ideal husband for a working couple. However, my mother-in-law, Jen, didn't share the same sentiments. She found it unsettling that Tom, a man, took on household tasks. This became evident around 10 years ago when our son started elementary school. Since the after-school care ended earlier, we relied on Jen's help to pick up our son, who wasn't old enough to stay home alone yet. Additionally, with Steve, my father-in-law, retired and at home, Jen had more free time. Jen, who had always been a traditional housewife, couldn't fathom seeing Tom in the kitchen. She'd mutter remarks like, "A man shouldn't be in the kitchen," or, "I can't believe this." Our generation would never imagine such a thing. Even during my first visit to their house, Jen couldn't resist asking if I planned to quit my job. Her mindset was stuck on the idea that women should be housewives, and she seemed disapproving of my glamorous job as a broadcaster. However, Tom, who had known my passion for broadcasting since our high school days, always supported my dreams. I wholeheartedly supported Tom's dream of becoming a photographer, and working together felt entirely natural to us. We navigated the challenges of nursery school together, but just as we thought elementary school would bring some ease, we encountered the inflexibility of after-school care. This situation forced us to lean more on Jane for assistance. As Jane began to frequent our home, she couldn't resist making comments about the household chores. "The laundry isn't folded properly," or "Isn't this cleaning a bit sloppy? There's dust over there," she'd remark. Tom, ever nonchalant, would respond with ease, "Oh, I'm in charge of the laundry. Is that not okay?" Or, "It's fine. No one dies from a bit of dust." Yet she persisted, complaining to Tom behind my back, questioning his willingness to take on domestic tasks. Despite her critical nature, Jane's help was appreciated, so I chose to listen without confrontation. On the other hand, Jen, with her old-fashioned views, surprisingly embraced modern technology. She boasted about being the only one among her friends to own a smartphone, utilizing it for various tasks. "See, you can do this kind of thing so easily now," she'd say, advocating for convenience. Our family relied on a delivery service for our weekly shopping, which seemed to irk Jane. "You should just go shopping yourself," she'd insist, deeming the delivery fee wasteful. However, when she discovered the convenience of online ordering, she encouraged me to follow suit. "Why don't you do this, Emily? Ordering on paper is so old-fashioned," she'd urge. During Jane's late-night stays, as Tom and I prepared dinner, she'd excuse herself, citing the need to return home for Steve's meal. "He won't eat if he's alone," she'd claim, leaving us to ponder Steve's inability to handle any household chores. "Tom, how is it that you, raised in such an environment, are so cooperative with household tasks?" she'd question, unable to comprehend his willingness to share responsibilities. I once asked Tom why he was so diligent with household chores, and he confided that his mom often complained about his dad's lack of help. Determined not to face similar grievances, Tom made a conscious decision to share the load when he got married, learning from his parents' negative example. Interestingly, Jan, Tom's mom, seemed to have a different perspective. She was irked by her husband's reluctance to do housework, yet found it amusing that her son willingly pitched in. It was perplexing to me, but I chalked it up to Jan's tendency to grumble, so I kept my distance. Little did I know, Jan felt so cornered that she resorted to drastic measures like attempting to sell our house without permission. That summer, I was presented with a rare opportunity by my company, a 2-month business trip overseas to cover a sports broadcast at the World Championship. It was a career milestone I couldn't turn down. When I consulted Tom, he was swamped with his own tasks but assured me of his support. However, he expressed uncertainty about managing our son John on his own. Sensing my dilemma, Jane offered to step in. Despite my reservations based on past experiences, I had no other viable options, so I reluctantly entrusted John to her care. We contemplated having Tom and John stay with Tom's parents, but the logistics of commuting to school from there posed a challenge. Ultimately, Jane agreed to stay at our house during weekdays to oversee things. With everything arranged, I embarked on my business trip, successfully completing the sportscasting work and advancing my career, albeit exhausted and relieved upon my return to the U.S. As I arrived at my house on a weekday afternoon, lugging a heavy suitcase, I was met by Jane at the entrance. She seemed oddly eager, as if she had been waiting for me. Just as I was about to express my gratitude for her help in looking after the house during my absence, she dropped a bombshell. "This house sold for $300,000, of taking the full amount," she declared matter-of-factly. My tired mind struggled to process her words. "Our house sold?" I asked in disbelief. Jane's eyes sparkled with excitement as she confirmed, "Yes, this house." No, I mean, we don't own a house." Confusion clouded my thoughts as I tried to comprehend the situation. I insisted that we did indeed own the house, but Jane just laughed it off, accusing me of lying and claiming there was a registration certificate in my name. Feeling frustrated and getting nowhere in the conversation, I shifted gears, attempting to calm my racing heart. "Let's put that aside for a moment. Why are you selling it?" I asked, hoping for some clarity. Jane's response sent a shiver down my spine. "What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband, and therefore to me. I'm using it to build a new house," she explained, her eyes bloodshot with determination. Suddenly, a sense of fear crept over me. A new house. For us. Tom and I. But why? This way, Tom won't have to do household chores anymore. "I've been so sorry for him," Jane added, her voice tinged with an unsettling fervor. "I raised him not to do such things, and I won't allow Tom to do household chores in the future," she declared firmly, her expression resolute. As I pieced together the story, it became clear that shortly after our marriage, when Tom was in the kitchen, she had instructed him to let me handle such tasks. Tom, however, had politely declined, stating, "No, this house is Emily's. I have to do at least this much." Unfortunately, she misconstrued his words, believing that Tom only helped with chores because he was living in my house. In her mind, Tom didn't actually want to do household chores. He preferred to focus on his work. The concept of a working couple sharing household responsibilities simply didn't register with her. Furthermore, I later discovered that after Steve's retirement, their financial situation became precarious. His pension fell short of expectations and finding re-employment proved challenging. Faced with insecurity about continuing to live in their rented apartment, they resorted to this unthinkable action. "No, this house isn't mine, and Tom thinks it's normal to do housework." I tried to interject, but Jen dismissed my words as lies, accusing me of interpreting things to suit myself. I knew I needed to gather more information before confronting her about her actions. "Where did you sell it?" I inquired, hoping to uncover the truth. "I sold it to AA Real Estate. They did an easy online assessment, and the sale went smoothly," she explained casually. It became evident that she had found a convenient online evaluation service and proceeded with the sale through them. The buyer was specifically looking for a house in our area, and they assured her that we wouldn't get such a high price anywhere else. Proudly, she proclaimed, "That's why you should be grateful. Selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000 is quite the feat, don't you think?" I found a reputable real estate agent, didn't I? Determined to verify her claims, I decided to research the real estate company online, hoping to uncover the truth. I attempted to reach them by phone, but my calls went unanswered. When I questioned Jane about whether she had visited the real estate company at the address provided, she simply replied, "No, I didn't go there. You don't need to do that nowadays." Frustrated by her lack of initiative, I insisted that she go to the address the next day, warning her that I wouldn't entertain further discussion otherwise. Reluctantly, she left. The following day, I received a distress call from Jane. Between sobs, she managed to convey, "It's not there. The real estate company doesn't exist at that address. There's only a dilapidated wooden house, seemingly uninhabited." Her admission left me dumbfounded, and I couldn't help but burst into laughter upon her return. Jane explained that in my absence she had stumbled upon a house registration certificate in my name and mistakenly believed she could sell the house. She then engaged a real estate agent, who shamelessly assured her that even if she wasn't the owner, possessing the certificate was sufficient. "Some people pass away, after all," they callously remarked, requesting our family register and signature certificate. Naively trusting their assurances, Jane provided all the requested documents. When the agent found a buyer, they demanded a deposit, half of the commission fee. Without hesitation, Jane transferred $4,800, half of the $9,600 commission on the supposed $300,000 sale. I dialed the police to shed light on the situation, and soon, 2 officers arrived at our doorstep. They enlightened us about the prevalence of internet fraudsters posing as real estate agents, a scheme that has become increasingly common. These scammers offer free property valuations, demand official documents, introduce a supposed buyer, collect a fee, and vanish into thin air. With numerous vacant houses and the ability to fabricate addresses for document delivery, such frauds have proliferated. The officers delved into the matter, questioning Jane, who trembled under their scrutiny. "Let me clarify," one officer began. "The house deed you provided belongs to your daughter-in-law, correct?" Jane, realizing the gravity of her actions, faltered, admitting to her mistake. However, her attempt to deflect blame was swiftly countered by the officer's incredulous remark about the absurdity of selling someone else's property. Flushed with embarrassment, Jane hastily fabricated an excuse, claiming that I had requested the house to be appraised for sale. Turning to me for confirmation, the officer seemed to sense the truth in my denial. Sensing Jane's desperation, he admonished her, emphasizing the recklessness of her actions. The officer then questioned the authenticity of the deed registration she had submitted. When she admitted that it was the original document, his astonishment grew. He turned to me, seeking my decision on filing a theft report. I replied with a firm no. That document was invalid. In fact, the house had already been sold to someone else. The recent change in the law allowed us to proceed with the sale using only the registration identification information. Though I had inherited the deed from my parents, it turned out to be unnecessary for the sale. Unaware of this, Jane assumed I still held ownership of the house. Typically, real estate agents would handle or request a copy of the deed for verification. However, fraudsters operated differently, bypassing such procedures. In her embarrassment, Jane shot me a resentful look and muttered about the curse of selling one's parents' home, attributing it to people in flashy jobs. I met her gaze squarely and explained that it was Tom's decision. He needed a lump sum of money at the time. Jane's shock was palpable as she questioned why Tom would want such a thing. I disclosed that Tom had aspirations of starting his photography business but lacked sufficient funds. The house, our main asset, was sold to an acquaintance and we rented it back. As I recounted the entire story, Jane's demeanor shifted. Her shoulders slumped, and through tears, she murmured, "So Tom's success now is because of you selling the house, Emily." I could have affirmed her statement, but instead, I expressed my belief in spouses sticking together through thick and thin. "We're in this together," I assured her. At my words, Jane broke down, her tears flowing bitterly. "I wanted to work too," she sobbed. "My husband can't do anything, even now after his retirement. He does nothing. What has my life been for?" Her litany of complaints against Tom continued, leaving the police officer struggling to complete the report. Ultimately, the fraud report was filed, but even after 10 years, the culprits remained at large. It seemed unlikely that the money would ever be recovered. Following the incident, Steve became vigilant over Jane's actions, taking over all financial control and denying her access to money. Whenever she needed something, she had to request it from him and would be given cash. "It's so suffocating," Jane complained to Tom, who reminded her that she had brought it upon herself. Now, with no disposable income, Jane sought work through senior job listings and currently teaches the elderly how to use smartphones. She is well regarded for her ability to empathize with the struggles of older learners. Steve, perhaps due to his pride, found senior jobs unsuitable and soon quit, providing no income. These days, Jane is busier, often leaving Steve with household duties as she goes out. Interestingly, he's taken an interest in cooking and is getting quite good at it. The roles in Tom's parents' house have reversed, but both seem to have found new fulfillment. As for me, after my overseas business trip, I successfully climbed the career ladder and now anchor the evening news. Tom's photography studio is thriving. And we've managed to save enough to consider buying back and renovating the family home. We're grateful to our acquaintance for allowing us to keep the house despite the outrageous incident. It worked out well for Tom's parents in the end. Our son is turning 17 and approaching adulthood, so I've shared this story with him as a cautionary tale about internet fraud. However, to preserve his grandparents' dignity, I've kept the part about them trying to sell our house a secret.